Most people would be like, what is anyone doing up at 1 a.m.? But I'm just like, oh boy, 1 a.m. Hey nerds, Sage is here. So, I have 8 orbs. I'm gonna do something stupid. Yeah! Blue, 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 blue. There's no blue. I quit. I'm done. This is the end. It all ends here. Yep, okay. It's probably an old elderly man trying to sell. You know, this is a good start. Really, one of the better starts I've ever had when it came to this. Well, you know, I tried for Olwen, just doing it casually, nothing too crazy. Not really going to bother too much out of that side, so I'm going to do something real quick, and that is we're going to go over to the story mode. I'm going to make sure we're still in Lunatic. Yep. I haven't done these in Lunatic yet, so I'm sure someone will get mad at me, but anyways. Alrighty. Sorry about that. I decided to quick motion over to where I wanted to be to discuss something pretty interesting that I realized a lot of people might want to, you know, look over and talk about because, well, we know that Clive is in the data and we know that he's been there for a little while, and he does show up in the final map of the story mode, along with Bruno and, of course, his wife as well. So, yeah. So, the one thing that you can learn, at least from Lunatic, is, at least when it comes to stats, where certain characters will stand. So, to get a better understanding, we actually had to look at Matilda's stats before we could compare it to Clive's, and it seems that, in a general sense, right now, we can kind of get an idea of how these stats should be allotted. Just be aware that when it comes to characters in Lunatic, at least for Lunatic characters you're fighting, their stats tend to be boosted a little bit to give you, to give them a bit more edge and make them a little bit tougher for you to fight because, well, it is Lunatic. But we can get a basic idea of how he's going to work. Now, we do know, at least in some form, what his A and B skills will be as an actual unit. It seems that defense and hit and run will be tied to him, which honestly is not a good skill set. Escochian as well, not the most amazing thing, but he is meant to be a defensive hardliner, kind of like the opposite of Berkut, but Berkut still had a bit more, defense when it really came down to it. But let's just talk about this real quick. So if we were to go by what this Reddit user said, which I believe his name was Forever Kid, if we can compare the stats with Matilda, who's also on the same map, to her level 40 version, without, a neutral stats, it would probably remove 3 from every stat, so that would take him down to 46 HP, 33 attack, speed would be 25, defense would be 32. Again, that's the defense that you see there, and that value is actually adding the defense plus 3 from his natural passives, and then his resistance would also be 18. Well, I'm just gonna say, right now, it's really looking like Clive is just basically a Berkut 2.0, a little bit better, maybe, a bit more attack-oriented, of course. If he does actually have a Silver Lance Plus, which would be probable. There's no lance that's under his name, no speciality weapon right now that we can see, no Clive's lance, as it were, to give him any sort of edge up or different possibilities, so it looks like he's going to be stuck with, Silver Lance Plus. To compare this to Camus, Camus has more HP, 1 more attack, I think it's like 4 HP, 1 attack, he has 8 less speed than Camus, 1 more defense than Camus, and 1 more resistance than Camus. So, Clive is not in a bad spot. He's not terrible by any means. With horse buffs and maybe a few new abilities like something like Fury, he will probably be able to boost his speed up substantially, at least get him a little bit further, especially if he is in a horse emblem team. That will be even better, but it's really hard to say if he's going to be getting a weapon. That would be interesting. I know people are like, oh man, I would like to see, a better weapon. Right now, well, there's nothing in the data, so maybe we'll see something soon. Right now, he just kinda is an average unit, and the stats are unfortunately going to be compared to not only Camus, but also Berkut, who just came out recently. And it looks like he may, in fact, just end up in that same sort of pigeonhole where if it's not Camus, you can use him. But if you don't have Camus, if you do have Camus, you'll probably want to use Camus. It's just the unfortunate kind of thing. It seems like Berkut and Clive kind of ended up in the same sort of situation. I'm not sure why we decided to have two really strong Blue Lance units kind of get mixed up in this situation where, honestly, they don't seem to have it. And the thing is, you know, even more is that it kind of makes sense because, according to this, he comes in at 154 BST, which is about the same as his wife. So that makes a lot of sense as a character, honestly, to come up together with all of that. But it's not going to be something that it seems he's going to be all that great at. He's not going to be a really good Lance unit you'll want to bring along and everything, but he will serve you pretty well. And he's not going to be, you know, stuck in, you know, people... I said Berkut was terrible compared to Camus, and that still kind of sits well for Clive, but the only thing is Camus has a distant counter weapon. That doesn't necessarily mean Clive or Berkut are bad. It just means they have a bit of a disadvantage when it comes to competing against someone like Camus. By all means, they still could be some pretty good characters. If we ever actually see a special weapon for Clive, that would be cool. But I'm not going to hold my breath on this one. I'm not too sure what's going to happen, but I keep refreshing the news Twitter page every so often just to see if there's any like little hints or notes about what's coming our way. But unfortunately, we've kind of fallen into a lull. So I figured we'd take a look at, you know, Clive as he is right now, see where he stands, and well, it's gonna be a bit of a troubling affair if this is what his real stats are like. And unfortunately, he's going to be compared against other strong Lance units who will be competing for that spot, like the aforementioned Camus or the aforementioned Berkut. And if he really is a Grand Hero battle, that's great. And if he's not, okay, well, you know, maybe he's free some other way. But right now, that's the only real way to actually take a look at Clive in game without, like, you know, trying to hack the data and get some actual stats out of that. Again, that could be slightly skewed. We don't know his real total stat gain right away. It could be, you know, a little bit different, but it shouldn't vary too much from what we just listed there as a basic theory. Because as a character, this should be what his stats are like, just mildly boosted. And, you know, comparing it to his wife, it kind of makes sense that they would have the same sort of, you know, BST there because, well, you know, they are a couple, and they are lovers. And now, why don't we get them into the middle so they can kiss? I'm kidding, but, yeah, it's an odd little thing. I found it interesting that someone would go through that time and effort to take a look at that and go, oh, huh, that seems really interesting. So, you know, I think it's pretty neat. I'm going to be pulling out of this because I don't have any, you know, that's a bunch of level 30 units in there that I've been leveling up. So yeah, that's just unfortunate. I didn't get to do much leveling today at all. Kind of screwed myself out of that one, but yeah, that's basic overview of what Clive will be like. Simply put, if he does have those abilities, whew, that's going to take a bit of effort. 2, he won't be as good as Camus, but then again, that's comparing, you know, apples and oranges. 3, he's probably better than Berkut in some ways, and, you know, 4, why the hell does it matter? If you have a Horse Emblem team and you don't have Camus, use one of them. They're pretty good. Berkut's cool, Camus is cool, it's, you know, and Clive is cool. Whenever Clive comes out, we have to take a look at things, we have to evaluate, and I do need to give you my opinion there. So, it's just such an odd thing that we have two nearly identical, almost nearly identical stat-wise characters who are going to be, you know, that were released so quickly together, or are going to be released so quickly together, at least if it is going according to plan. So pick your poison, guys. It's really up to you. Camus, Clive, or Berkut. It's really up to you who's your favorite. But if you do have Camus, you probably should be using him. Anyways, I'm going to be heading to bed. Catch you guys later. Thanks for watching.